Good evening. My name is Maurice Hamilton, publisher of Insight to Insight magazine, and we've got a new program that we want to introduce to you called Chat and Chew. Chat and Chew allows us to get with leaders in the community and talk about relevant issues in ways that we can overcome those issues. Tonight I have the opportunity to be joined by two distinguished gentlemen, Kabir Muhammad, which is the director for Positive Alternatives for Youth, and Dr. Stephen Bradley, who is the Director of African American Studies over at St. Louis University. I hope you enjoy this program because our goal at Insight to Insight magazine is to inform, inspire, and implement. Shout outs to our sponsor, Cabana in the Loop, 6100 Del Mar. When you get a chance, get by here. The service is great and the food is wonderful. Thank you.
Figure out what can I do to try and engage and help young people go in a positive direction. And what I've come to find out was a lot of our young people, they don't have a lot of positive alternatives. They have a lot of negative alternatives. So that's why my consulting company was called Positive Alternatives for Youth. I wanted to be in a position to try and help young people develop some pro-social development skills and utilize those skills to help enhance their quality of life and environments that they live in. But to segue into the question that you asked, what's going on with our youth? I think we have to ask the question, what's going on with the adults? Children are just a reflection or duplication of the adult population. Children learn from adults. They learn behaviors, they learn language, they learn activities, their social skills, their positive skills and negative skills, all are learned from adults. So the question I think we also have to ask, not only what is going on with our youth, what is going on with the adult population, so that we would allow for our young people to become so violent. It's just mind-boggling. And I try and look at it from a social standpoint, but also from a psychological standpoint, because we're dealing with a lot of social issues that affect us psychologically. A lot of the programs that I developed, that I utilized when I was doing programs in schools, St. Louis Public School District, Army School District, I worked in those schools districts with some of the most challenging of our young people, and the individuals I had on my staff are very skilled in trying to engage and get these young people to move them in a certain direction. But my point is this, our young people today seem to have a total disregard for life, for their community, lack of respect for the adults in their lives. So we really have to look at ourselves as adults and find out what it is that we're not doing to try and help these young people develop some pro-social development skills.
Brother Stephen, what's your take?
Well, I guess if you would ask me this question 5 months ago, I would, if you asked me what's going on with the youth, I would have said something flippant, like they're scared, underfed, and waiting to be led. But as of August 9th, I think there's a different kind of thing happening with our young people. I think one of the things that I've seen happen is young people aren't afraid. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point, but they're not afraid. They weren't afraid when somebody violated their rights, violated their human rights. They weren't afraid to say something about it. As far as leadership, I'm very inspired by the fact that young people have moved forward to become leaders. Now we need to work on which direction we're leading these, the people behind them and that sort of thing. But in some ways, I'm very encouraged, and in others, I'm concerned. Some of the ways I'm concerned are, these young people at the mercy of these adults, as Brother Muhammad was saying. Unemployment rate for young people is incredibly high. So when we talk about young people roaming the streets, we'll give them a job. That'll change some things around. When we talk about young people not learning as much, we need our best teachers in the schools. But it's a combination of so many different things, so many different systems that young people are making out the best way they can right now. And so I think we're turning a corner where people are starting to realize at the base of all of this is going to be this jobs piece and that education piece. I base of all of it.
So what's interesting about that is that you guys tend to have the same goal, but you're approaching from two different ends of the spectrum. Stephen, more on the education end, and Kabir, you got more of the human side to it, more of the guerrilla tactic. Explain that. Explain how the two can work together.
What's so grieving for me, and I use the term grieve because anytime you work in an environment and in a community where young people are literally suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder because of the type of things that take place within their environment, but yet still get up the next day and go to school.
Amazing. Just amazing. Amazing.
So I had to really study our young people to get a better understanding of how they're able to cope. Because you have some adults that can't even cope with some of the things that they're faced with. So what I started out doing was going into school environments through another organization that really just catapulted me in this kind of work. They would take me into the schools and they would address ones that the school had the most problems, most challenging, most violent, the gang members, the drug dealers. They'd have one-on-one environment. And what they would do was strategically use psychology to find out what's going on with them, but it's also trying to lead them in a direction that will be positive for them. So in my studies of young people and trying to understand what they're dealing with, I really can't fault the young people for what has been bequeathed to them. In other words, this world that we live in today is what adults left to our young. And our young people are trying to navigate through it the best that they can with what they have and what they know. It's because it's all about survival of the fittest in the environments that they come from.
Is that the same way on your end too, though, Stephanie?
Well, I'll say this, that the way that we have situated education for particularly our young people, it's a training ground, but a training ground for maybe not something so positive. So you think about going into our schools, and I won't name any of our schools, but schools where our young people attend. It is so difficult to get into the school. You go in, you gotta take your keys out your pocket, take your pocket knife out, take your fingernail clipper out, don't bring your ink pen inside. It's so difficult getting in. But there's nobody there when you leave. They don't have, it's not so difficult to leave school. And so the way that we have it set up for education is you have to wear a badge to get into school. You have to know your number to get into school. Of course, you're going through your metal detector. Then in the hallway, somebody's always hollering at you at the bell time and this sort of thing. And then if you step out of line, and we make sure to suspend you and this kind of stuff, put you in solitary. I hope you understand where I'm going with this. And as a result, when these young people figure out, look, this may not be much better than than jail or prison, I'm trying to escape, and there's no one there to stop them when they are trying to escape. And so there's that part of the whole thing. I think the other part of it is we have to re-envision ways of engaging these young people. When and I'm not Pollyanna. I don't believe that all the young people are sweet and innocent and that sort of thing. It's some bad kids. Look, some kids that act out. I know that to be sure. Well, if that's the case, though, I'm not sure we win anything with our zero tolerance policies. I'm not sure we win anything by suspending young people for 2-3 weeks at a time. And I was just telling Brother Muhammad before we started that if it's a situation where I get suspended for, say, 2 weeks for being disrespectful or something like that, well, if I'm blessed enough to have parents working, they're not staying home with me all day. So where else would I go but to the streets?
Right.
And so we have to re-envision a way to educate these people, to have the kind of educators who take pride in the fact that this is my classroom and you're going to learn, you're going to learn. And so those things I think are what are revealing themselves right now. And then the other thing is education is moving way beyond the classroom. What we have in Ferguson, what we have in the Shaw District, what we have, all over the city is one of the all-time best civics lessons you could ever learn. Mm-hmm. Young people are talking about who's the district attorney.
Right.
Young people know who the police chief is. Young people know who's on the city council and who the mayor is. Man, if you try to teach that in the classroom, yeah. So this is an interesting time to be alive and to be an educator, and I think that we can go somewhere.
So, Brother Kabir, based on what Brother Stephen just said, that's an interesting dynamic. And what I mean by that is you got kids knowing who the district attorney is. You got kids knowing about the history of Ferguson Police Department. How do you change the mindset? How can the two of you work together to change the mindset? Meet them where they are in that type of situation. Because you got a whole different approach. Brother Stephen mentioned that school ain't sexy. It's not sexy to some people, especially from the
It's almost like a burden.
Right.
To some young people.
Right. So how do you, on your end, with your organization, curb that to get them to?
And that's the ultimate goal of what Positive Alternatives is about, is to engage young people where they are, help them get an understanding of how they got to where they are, and help them put together goals and aspirations for their future. But the thing that I always tell young people, it's not just about you. It's about you, your family, and your people.
Now, why put that type of pressure on them?
You see, it's not a thing of putting pressure on them. That's helping them understand what their culture is. I want to be a blood. I want to be a gangster disciple. I want to go around carjacking people. All that is learned behavior. And that is learned behavior from adults. And we have to really educate young people on the realities of what we deal with in society so that they cannot get caught up in the traps, which feeds the penal systems and keeps our young people out of the social norms, if I can use that term, social norms, because when we look at society, what's really normal now?
No, I think you're on the right track.
I mean, what's really normal? I was telling Brother Stephen the other day, I was coming home from work, they had a detour, came to a stop sign, young brothers in a car, brand new car, hanging out the window, shooting Tech 9 in there. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it shook me. It wasn't that I was afraid, but I was just looking. I said, oh, damn, what is he thinking about? What are they thinking about? That they can ride up and down the street at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and let out 15 shots from a Tech 9 hanging out of the car. Driving down the street at about 50 miles an hour. I'm trying to wrap my mind around what is their reality. What would motivate? The guy couldn't have been no more than 16, 17 years old. But how did he get to that point in his life? And then I have to look at the environment and the adults. You know, we want to charge young people for learning behaviors that they learn from us. That's basically what it all boils down to.
Or punish them for what we haven't taught them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But my goal is to help young people understand that the condition, situation, and circumstance that you're faced with, you didn't create it, but I can give you some guidance on how to navigate around it, get through it.
Which will ultimately take them to him.
Yes.
Right. So what I hear both of you saying is we got it wrong. We're targeting the wrong people. We're looking at the youth, but the reality of it is that we should be really targeting the adults.
I think it's
Well,
a combination of
it's
both.
you got to do both. That's the way it's going to have to be. So when you're talking about the youth, Brother made a excellent point in that. In part, what we have is a crisis of pride. So the idea about you do well in school, not for you. You do well in school because you were a Jones or you're a Johnson, and that's that's our legacy. That's what we do. Is we do well.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some sort of, and I don't want to sound bougie. I don't want to sound as if I'm out of touch, but there has to be some sort of respect for family name. There has to be some sort of respect for what is my family's reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, different families have different reputations.
Absolutely.
But this idea that I'm getting this education for me is the wrong idea. It can't work like that. So that's probably the most selfish thing on earth you can do. Of course, a man that gets gold and doesn't share it is a low-down, dirty man, of course. But a man who gets knowledge and doesn't share it is the worst kind of sinner. And so the idea is we need to start with this pride element. This pride element that you may come from dangerous neighborhoods, you may come from poor circumstances. But we are descendants of Africans. We came across an ocean. We came from the worst circumstances, and we made it.
Right.
And we made it. And there's no stopping us in that way. The other thing I'd say is and who knows, this may not be popular, but we have to start also thinking about, we spend a lot of time on the bad actors, the ones who have the worst kind of behavior. We really need to invest in those young people who are in the middle, who could go up or down as far as their behavior. We need to focus on those talented young people too, and cultivate them so that they go from good to great. I have a program that we work with at St. Louis University called the African American Male Scholars Initiative, and that's our unofficial motto: good to great. If you're good enough to get in the SLU, we'll make you great enough to be leaders in the world. And so on April 9th, we'll have a conference where we'll invite 2 university presidents. We'll have one of the finest scholars of Black male achievement and some of these young people from the program speaking. But the idea is, yes, we need to focus on the young people who are going into the area that Brother Muhammad has to deal with them and help them and guide them. But we also need to help these young people to learn that you're going to become a governor. You're going to become
or even
a
that
businessman.
you can, right? You
Yeah,
can become.
absolutely.
Right. So, Brother Kabir, is it, as it relates to getting people to see that, getting the kids, talking to the youth about education or even pride? I mean, you have to run into the pride element a whole lot dealing with our youth. The example that you gave, gentlemen, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, spraying a weapon. What's the thought process? So when you're trying to talk to a youth to get him to Stephen Bradley, or get him into that world, because the reality of it is a whole nother world that he's not even used to, that he doesn't even think that he can even attain.
The reason I'm smiling is because I'm listening to you. It is not about pride with young people. It's all about respect. And when you look at our young people,
That's good.
they realize that we have been disrespected since we've been in this country. So what you see in Ferguson, we're not taking it no more. We're not being disrespected.
So
We ain't
they
being
fed up.
killed. We ain't been shot at and killed for nothing. We're not doing that.
Okay.
You're going to respect me as a human being. So one of my strategic tools is to help young people understand what respect is really about.
And that was going to be my next question. Do they really understand what respect is all about? Even when you merge it with something like, we came over on a boat. When you marry that to that type of history that we have, my thing is how can we get them understanding, like you said, Stephen, how do you get them understanding who we are? This is who we are. If we came over on a boat, how much worse can it get? If they don't understand that, brother, then how can they understand what respect is? And I hear you.
To answer your question, then, it goes right back to it. Who gonna teach it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's true.
Good point.
And the reason we're at this point now is nobody's taught.
Okay.
nobody's really talked about the racism and white supremacy that we face on a daily basis here in America. Black people, particularly black males, who are systematically are targeted.
Yeah.
And then we end up with situations where we're trying to understand why these young people are acting the way they're acting.
Right.
These young people are not as crazy as we think they are.
Exactly.
They understand what's going on in this world. And what they're upset about is, how come the adults haven't done anything to try and change all of this? I mean, my initial statement at the onset of this conversation was, look what we bequeath to these young people. You know, when I look at Walmart, that's going to be passed down from one generation to the next generation, to the next generation.
Legacy. Okay.
So what do we do? What are we passing down?
No, I
We
think.
passing down debt, dilapidated communities, no businesses. You know, a lot of young people look at that kind of stuff. And they understand. We may not realize it, but this is the most intelligent generation that we've ever produced. That's why they're the most, young people don't have any fear.
Yeah.
But the challenge with that is, this also is the first generation we've ever produced where the adults and the parents and the children act the same way, wear the same clothes, listen to the same music, use the same drugs, drink the same alcohol. So where is the leadership coming from?
Yeah. No.
How do you? I mean, yeah. What do you say to that?
Well, I'll say this. that-
As a leader,
as a-
as a leader, as an emergent leader,
right.
what do you say to that?
I say we have work to do. I say that it's if we were of the opinion that all we could do is take care of our own children, then we might as well admit defeat right now. So for me to think that all I should be able to do is to make my little money at the university and go on home or write this book, write that book, and not care about somebody else's young person, that would be admitting defeat. I'm not prepared to do it. I'm not prepared to do it. So part of what we have is and I love what the brother said. These young people aren't dumb. That's why they went to the streets. When they saw that Mike Brown Jr. was laid out in the street and he had graduated from high school.
Oh wow.
That he was fixing to go to Vatterott. And they said, so this is what you get when you graduate from high school? This is what you get when you do things, that everybody asks you to do? And when you heard his mama talk about, you don't know how hard it was for me to get him through, it touched her heart. So the idea is we need a way to replace these institutions. Now this is an important thing. Replace some of the institutions that meant so much when we were growing up. So I'm not one of those you remember the good old days kind of person, because forward is typically better in my mind. But much of what went on at the church house had little to do with praying. Much of it had to do with leadership training. Much of it had to do with you learn how to give your first speech at church. You learn how to read. I learned to read at church. You learn, you learn how to respect adults or elders, as we call them in our community, elders. We need some kind of institution. If it's not the church, we need another kind of institution to replace that.
There's a lot that's missing. I've heard both of you gentlemen say there's a lot that's missing. What do you think that next institution is? Is that what you're building up and fostering through your network? Are you building that next institution that's the conduit to get to that next level, that next ticket? Thank you. Because it has to be a connection.
My objective is to try and help change young people's thinking about their situation and circumstances.
Okay.
Because the present situation that we're faced with right now, a lot of our young people feel hopeless. They don't value anything. I mean, when I would do programs at school, let's say we got a room full of about 15 to 20 children, I would always poll to find out how many young people in this environment or in in this classroom has lost a loved one to violence, to gun violence, to gang violence. 80% every time, 80 to 90% every time. How many young people had a family member shot and killed? 70 to 80%. How many young people, how do y'all feel about living? We're not afraid to die. So why would a young person, 12 years old, tell you he's not afraid to die when he's never even really lived? So that means you have to change that thinking.
Okay.
That's because of the environment that he came up in. Basically, trained his thinking that way. I mean, when you walk out your household, you got to duck bullets. When you come home from school, you got to fight your way to the house. You can't walk to the corner store because somebody down there selling dope. Or the corner's crowded with a lot of gang members. You know, mentally, you got to adjust to that.
Right.
You know, and try and figure out how to navigate through it. So my goal is to try and make people understand that there are things that you can do yourself to help you get out of your situation, get out of your circumstances, get out of your condition. And part of that is education. But also you got to understand the importance of community and they understand the importance of what your culture is all about.
And right now they're dealing a lot with survival.
Yeah.
More so than before they can even think education.
Absolutely.
They're thinking,
How am I going to eat tomorrow?
right, how am I going to eat? Or, mom and dad working late, food on the table, let me get to class, whatever the case may be.
Now, wait a minute now. You said mom and dad. Statistics say 50 to 60% of black homes are female-led. So where is the dad? And that's the imbalance. You don't have a black male in the environment. So I had a young person. I've even had, sisters say that, well, that's my son, and I can teach him to be a man. You can't do that because you're not a man. You're a female. You can teach him how to be a good son, but you can't teach him how to be a man. A lot of our young men, honestly speaking, really don't have the skills and the necessary training to understand what it is to be a man and how to be a leader in your community. I mean, my father...
Because they've never seen it?
No.
Or because
my father was in my life. You know what I'm saying? There are certain things that he instilled in me at a very early age that I still carry with me to this day, which was take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your home, go get you a good education, get you a job, or get you a business. That's what I was taught.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
My father not only said get you a job, but try and get your own business.
Right.
I'd rather pay somebody than to get paid. And we have to learn all over again how we can get our young people to understand that they have value in this world, that they are important, and that they are contributors to society.
If there's any one thing I know as an historian, that is that black people will survive. Like we're the best at it. That we'll always survive. It's the truth.
That's an understatement.
It's the truth. We're the best at it. Our issue is, will we go beyond survival to thriving? And that's what you have to instill early on to the young person that doesn't have much food, has to, goes to the chop suey place to eat all the time, goes to the Quick Trip to eat all the time.
Quick Trip, brother.
I love them both. I love them both.
Alone, Stephen.
I love them both. Thank you for that.
They don't have that in their community.
Now,
Now they may not have that. But letting that young person know, yeah, we're gonna make it. Yeah, we're gonna make it. And so it's okay for you to dream and to dream in color. And that's the thing is sometimes we allow our young people to be so beat down. We don't even let them dream. Right? We don't even let them dream. So part of what we can do is just allow our young people to dream. Teach them some important lessons, some very important lessons, which have to do with accountability. I'm not one of those people that says it's all based on accountability because there are some systems in place that are keeping oppressed people oppressed.
yeah.
But the one thing we can control in our lives is ourselves. And so you learn to outwork everybody. That's what you do. You learn that you're just as smart as anybody. You may not be smarter than anybody, but you're just as smart as anybody. So these are the early lessons that you have to teach. You learn that you don't respect old people just because they're old. You respect them because they have wisdom. You learn to respect other people because you intend to live a long life. And so these are the early lessons that we teach. The other thing we got to teach too. The other thing we got to teach is this idea that we make college and university life, we make it seem so far away. And the truth is, look, and I'm telling you this from experience, that the students in the university aren't always the smartest students, the smartest young people around. Aren't always the smartest young people around. And so it's up to universities, people like myself, to push our universities to think about ways to get the smartest young people, not the ones who are best bred for university life, but the smartest young people, and for thinking about ways to go beyond our traditional ways of getting young people for university life.
You guys enjoying the food?
Oh,
It's
that's
outstanding.
good.
Outstanding.
Yes,
Good. I want to wrap up by saying we've talked about a lot of topics. We've said some things that are key, okay? And if we needed to go through a list of bullet points, we could. But my question is, what is the next step? What has to be the next step after authentic conversation? Okay, so after we have authentic conversation, how do we bridge the gap? What's the next step in getting our youth understanding that education is important? Understanding your heritage is important. Okay, how do we do that? And then because like you said, Stephen, we're going to survive.
Yeah.
It is what it is. We're going to survive. So, as you're counseling, and I'll say this, you mentioned something that was key. There has to be institution in place because we've missed our assignment, if you will. Some of us, young men that are not in the homes, that are out doing whatever we're doing, or incarcerated, or whatever the case is, we missed that assignment. So, Brother Kabir, what is that next step in bridging that gap to get these guys to what's getting over the hump? And you talk about psychologically getting it there, but I want the real. What's the real? And because education on that end, like you said, we make it seem so far to reach. You know, you see a young, good-looking brother like that, a student, and he's like, "Look, man, that ain't that." Again, education is not sexy to me. But you show me a couple of pretty ladies on campus, then, maybe I'm thinking a different way.
Right.
Just being honest.
No, it's true.
What's that hard pill that we need to swallow to move this generation forward? Because there's no respect. There's no appreciation for it. There's not, and I saw this with my 13-year-old son. It's not even being taught in the schools anymore, man. When we grew up, there was that bit of history that helped you to understand. Whether you grew up in the suburbs or whether you grew up right on Page and Lithgow, it was there. It's no longer there. They've taken it away. So what's the next step? I'm sorry. I keep talking.
Yeah, it's
Food's
okay.
good.
It just motivates our thoughts. But first of all, until we can identify and produce genuine, fearless leadership that will challenge racism and white supremacy and the systems that are imposed on us, our young people will continually to be just wandering in the wilderness, if I want to use that term. So my point is this: our young people are looking for direction.
Yeah, of course.
Particularly our young men. They're looking for strong male leadership. But when you have so-called leadership that doesn't challenge the things that are causing all the difficulties in these young people's environment in their life, then they won't listen to it. Because they don't feel they have nobody to trust and follow anyway, because they don't have their best interests at.
Is it that, or is it that we don't look like Jay-Z, or we don't look like some of the other artists out there?
I look at certain aspects of hip hop as just tools of the enemy. And what I mean by that is, you can get 60 to 50,000 people at a concert, but you can barely get people to come to a free GED class. You see what I'm saying? They'll spend all their money going to a concert that's not going to benefit them, but something that can benefit them that could even be free. You won't even take advantage of it. So that just goes right back to our thinking. But the population that I've always tried to focus on the young people that our society say that they're throwaways, we don't want to have anything to do with them, those are the ones that I like engaging. Because what I've come to find out is those young people are the most intelligent, the most articulate once they're given the proper tools to express themselves.
Because they want it. Yeah. They want it. I think the difference is they want that. You touch them enough to where they want that.
Sure, absolutely. And I don't think there's no such thing as a bad child. I believe there's a such thing as
bad behavior.
Right. I think there's a such thing as an environment that precipitates bad children. Environment is everything. Brother Stephen and I was talking. We got different levels of educational systems in this society. Mm-hmm. Rashawn is not John Burroughs. Nope. But Rashawn is not Metro either. No. So you got John Burroughs, you got Metro, then you got Rashawn. And you look at what happens in those environments. Communities are the same way. Ladue is not saying what's happening in Grant. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So when you look at that environment, but you can go out in Brentwood and see a totally different environment. You can see thriving businesses, young people working at the stores, people spending money. And then you come do the comparison and contrast, and then you come down to North St. Louis. You see dilapidated buildings, derelict environment.
So it's based on what they're exposed to.
Absolutely, exposure is everything.
No, I think it's an excellent point, and I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful, and I'm a winner. And so I see us winning this, and there's a couple different ways to do it. Number one is what our young people need is something that we haven't been able to give, and that's a certain amount of attention. That is, all right, fine, you're not employed, but your child goes to school. Why don't you go up to school with your child to make sure that he or she is doing well? One of the things that we have to teach our young people, and perhaps our adults, is this idea of ownership. That school belongs to us. Like, we paid for the school. Like, it belongs to us. All those teachers work for us. And I'm not talking about in the sense that we go up there and disrespect the teachers or anything like that. But we tell our young people that this is your neighborhood. Like, so what I say do for, you want concrete steps is this idea that parents, do yourself a favor and at least once a semester go up to the school and see what your child does. For young people, what I would say is start asking them what they want to do for them, And if you don't, this is for the parents talking to you. If you don't know the different kinds of things that are possible for your child, and look it up on the internet. Everything is
Google it.
Yeah, and make that possible, because what I found is young people say, yeah, all right, I want to be a rapper, I want to be a ball player, and this kind of stuff. That's because that's
what they see
readily available in that way. I go to school sometimes. I keep my little suit and tie on and that sort of thing. They say, here comes the lawyer. Because that's all. That's all they've ever envisioned. And so you have to, that kind of exposure that the brother was talking about, that's important for young people. And they can't do that themselves. But for young people, you tell them to dream. I don't see why not. And you show them how to do it.
Valid point. I was just thinking about that. I remember when they had this youth forum down at this church. Real crowd, a lot of young people there, a lot of adults there, a lot of so-called leaders from the community.
So-called?
Yeah.
Did you say that right?
Yeah, so-called.
That's the shade.
Right. So you saw the shade
too. The purpose
there.
of the forum was to ask the young people, what do you want? What do you want as young people? Since we got all this violence and stuff going on, what do you want so we can stop it? Now the interesting thing about that is, which brings me back to your question, what do we do? What's the next steps? The next step is we give them directions. We don't ask them what they want. We tell them what to do. I'm sure you were raised like that. I was raised like that.
Absolutely.
I didn't tell my father what I wanted. He told me what I was going to do. He told me how I was going to do it and how long it took to get it done.
Yep.
I didn't tell my mother what I wanted to eat. She told me this is what you're going to eat and you're going to sit here and eat. So for us to go to young people who are not at the level of maturity to make certain decisions in their lives, why don't you go to them and ask them what do they want? And that's part of the problem.
But we have to be careful though, because we do have to listen to these young people.
Yeah, we have to listen to them. I'm not saying that. But how is it that you're supposed to be the adult, but you asking the child what to do? That's my point. The child's supposed to ask you, what am I supposed to be doing? And that's where we are now. So that's why I talked about this is the only generation where the parents act the same way, wear the same clothes. So who gonna lead who?
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you. Food was great.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Fabulous.
Love the conversation. Hopefully we hit on some things that actually hit home and made sense.
I hope we brought a lot to the table.
I think so. And I think through talks and conversations like this is what's going to help get us better. The absence of leadership is serious. It needs to be corrected.
We make leadership. That's
Absolutely.
I agree with you on that, bro. Well, guys, appreciate you.
How we do.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks so much.